Hey guys, this is Lisa from NYC Gal Outs. Welcome back to my channel, and we are talking Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 14, Episode 12. There is one episode left, and then the series is going on hiatus, and it'll be interesting to see when they come back and who's coming back with them, if anybody's coming back with them. Look, the whole entire season, it was really whatever, slow, boring, 12 episodes, 13 episodes. I really feel like there's so many filler scenes, and this really had nothing to do with any of the stan accounts that are, trying to get their names out there. And I say that because even before all of these stan accounts lost their shits on social media, the network had already decided that it was going to be a short season. There was already no interaction with Teresa and the Gorgas as well as with Margaret. There was already no sit down between her and the Gorgas, and there was already no cast trip. On top of that, there was not much to fill the episodes with. There also was not a lot of full cast events, and it was already going to be a very short and toxic season anyway. Filming wrapped the week before BravoCon. BravoCon was the last week of October. It was already a short season. There was not much to go with. So it has nothing to do with any of these stan accounts, no matter what they want to tell themselves and no matter what they want to hype themselves with. Because again, this will happen in October. A lot of people hype Margaret up. They say that, she has it in good with producers and with executives and whatever else. I'm sure her field producers and whatever, they do like her and stuff. The stuff that I want people to understand is that if you have never worked in a corporate environment like NBC, like Comcast, like freaking I don't even know what, then you're not going to understand the titles. I saw a lot on social media. I try to stay the fuck off of Twitter because Twitter is just filled with misinformation, even when it comes to something as benign as reality TV for entertainment. Louis does not have any criminal charges against him. There is a civil suit going on between him and Kevin Johnson. A lot of people are saying it's a group of lawyers suing another group of lawyers. No, it is not. It is Kevin Johnson and his law firm, his own law firm, which he names Kevin Johnson. The man's name is Kevin Johnson and his law firm is Johnson Litigation Group. So it's his own law firm. It's not a group of lawyer. It's just him attaching his law firm to it to make it seem more than what it is. But this guy basically got his ass handed to him on that TRO that was last year. And he got embarrassed. He got his ego bruised a little bit. This lawsuit came out on February 14th. I made a video on it February 18th. Guys, I always like to say upload dates don't lie. That video that I did on February 18th, nobody even knew about it. Everybody thought that the exclusive and the breaking news was like all this other bullshit. No, the exclusive news was that Kevin Johnson used to work in the same law firm as Danielle Rosenberg, which is one of Louis' lawyers. I broke it all down. Of course, nobody picked up on it, and now everybody's picking up on it, and they want to say that they dropped the exclusive, but no, I dropped the exclusive because, again, like I said, upload dates don't lie. I did that video 4 days after the lawsuit dropped. Look, Teresa, she sits down with, some of the ladies to talk about what happened. A lot of it was edited. I'm sure James Leonard sent more than what was shown on our TV screen, but it is a heavily produced show. There is a lot of edits that go into it. Bravo themselves do not want to get sued. And when they go through these edits, they also have their own in-house counselors, a team, a department, a room of lawyers, very smart lawyers that will litigate for them and tell them what should be put in, what should not put in. So I am sure that scene was very heavily edited. But even though it was very heavily edited, you do see how they show that Margaret has been denying since 21 that she's never spoken to Vanessa and whatever else. Now, in Margaret's upcoming scene with Dolores, she tries to play it off as she did this only after she claims Louis called her son. That is not true, and that came out in the TRO lawsuit. It came out that she's been in contact since 21. Now, according to Margaret, Louis, allegedly called her son in 23. So how do you go back 2 years to 21 if your whole explanation is, yes, I did talk to her after that BS with my son? Well, according to you, that BS was in 23. So how do you go back 2 years? Anyway, and look, there are more people on social media who are more dedicated to this stuff than I am. So, they have timelines and everything. But look, if you guys are a Teresa fan, then you already know the timeline doesn't make sense. She's not understanding it that at some point somebody had to start it first. It didn't start with Laura, and it didn't start with even if you were to believe that Bodito investigated them, it didn't start with Bodito and it didn't start with Laura. It actually started when Louis came onto the show, and that was because of his Lifetime movie Psycho X, and that was in 21. That was in season what was it? It was in season 12, right? That was season 12. That was the season with Tracy Johnson. That poor girl got glammed up. She posted on her social media. She did the media rounds, and then they didn't even show her. Anyway, it was that season with Tracy Johnson, and in that whole entire season, Margaret did nothing but talk shit about Louis and Teresa. And that was also the season where they went to Nashville, and she was like sitting there in her spandex covered with food. That was also when she started to get a little emboldened, because she went and she told the field producers that she didn't feel safe after what happened at the restaurant. The field producers got a hold of the executive producer, and they decided, okay, Teresa and Louis are going to stay at a hotel. And because of that, she felt that she is now the queen bee, and that she is the one that is the shot caller. She feels that because they asked Teresa to leave, that this is her show. She actually believes in her head that she is like the face of her franchise. Like, no, she is not the face of Real Housewives of New Jersey, but in her head, she thinks she is. Ever since Danielle snatched her weave like an episode of Jerry Springer, she has felt a certain way about Teresa. Okay. I think some of the cast members are realistic to the fact that this is a long hiatus and that they might not be returning, and others are a little bit delusional about it. Things are up in the air, and to an extent, I think even the Gorgas are realistic about it. And if they're not, Andy Cohen very pointedly asking them, you know, how they feel about this chapter of New Jersey coming to an end, or even saying to Melissa, you know, what do you think about, you know, New Jersey ending as we know it? She might feel very confident that she is the one that is going to be returning, but she should not be that confident. But I think she herself realizes that it's either one or the other, or a completely new cast, right? So I will be interested in seeing how this goes, whether they offer Teresa a spinoff, get like an Italian version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians going. Let's see if NBC and any of their sub-networks give her spin-off of her own, or if she tries to pitch it with a whole entire different studio, different network. You know, and I said this already, that you're also going to see changes with the production team. When the show goes on hiatus, it's not only the talents that go on hiatus, the production company, the production crew does not get paid either. So it'll be interesting to see if Bravo as the network or NBC as the network wants to continue that relationship with Sirens Media, or if they decide to go with a different production company. Do I feel like Sirens would come back as the production company for the Real Housewives of New Jersey? Here's something. Evolution, the production company for Evolution is owned by Amazon Studios, and then the production company for Shed Media is owned by Warner Brothers. I feel like Bravo as a network has a better relationship with Shed Media than they do with any of the other production companies. And because of that, I feel like if they decide to not continue the relationship with Sirens, I do think that the production company that will pick it up is going to be Shed Media. You're going to see a whole entire new facelift. Who's coming back, right? I don't know, but I will say this. Margaret, I feel, is not coming back. I also do not feel that Danielle or Rachel are coming back. The rest, Jackie, she's not coming back. Fessler, she's not coming back. I love Jen Aydin. She's probably my favorite cast member on Real Housewives of New Jersey. I probably enjoy watching her more than I do Teresa, but unfortunately, don't see Jen Aydin coming back, which is real unfortunate because I do enjoy her a lot. Teresa and Melissa, just don't see executives of the network having to make a decision between Melissa and Teresa. NBC will try, specifically Bravo, I think that they will try to find a way to continue their relationship with Teresa. As far as New Jersey is concerned, they might offer her like a friend of position. And now they might also offer a friend of position to Melissa Gorga. While on Real Housewives of New Jersey, we see a lot of Jackie and Jen Fessler, even though they're friends of, that is not the norm. Friends of are basically there for filler scene episodes. But in Real Housewives of New Jersey, because the cast is so divided, you actually see a lot of Jackie and Jen Fessler. I am interested to see how this is going to play out in a year. Last year, people were saying, God, they're going on a pause, they're going on a pause. I think their alleged pause was just them filming like the following month from when they normally film. So it was like, okay, well, this isn't an actual pause. Like a pause is what the hell happened to Miami. They were on like a freaking 10-year pause. A pause is what happened to Real Housewives of Atlanta. A pause is what happened to Real Housewives of New York. They did not film for a year. Atlanta did not film for a year. And then when they filmed again, it was major cast changes. RHONJ, they didn't film for 2 years. And then it was like a complete reboot. Those are pauses. Real Housewives of New Jersey will be on a real pause again. Well, actually, they had a real pause. The first time they had a real pause was when Teresa went to jail and they stopped production for a year. Now, they will have another actual real pause. They're going on hiatus, and it will be at least a year before they start production up again. So it'll be interesting to see if Sirens Media comes back as the production company, and it'll be interesting to see who comes back as cast members. I do not see the franchise moving forward revolving around Teresa or Margaret or the Fudas or the Cabals or the Gorgas. What I do see is new faces. I also do see it as Teresa having a potential friend of position. My opinion. The rest, though, they're going to have to find a new job. Anyway, look, the whole episode was basically that. John Fuda, he had like an allergic reaction. He doesn't even know what the fuck he was allergic to. I actually don't think he had an allergic reaction. I think he said his throat felt like it was tightening. I think that he just, you know, sometimes when you eat something, your esophagus closes up. And again, I want to take it back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We had that whole thing with Sutton and her freaking esophagus. Okay, but that is an actual thing. When you eat something, and it happens to my husband too. Sometimes when you eat something, if you don't chew it thoroughly enough, if it's too big, whatever, your esophagus can be constricted and it can feel like your throat is tightening. But there are also people out there with medical conditions where your esophagus is too small and the food is not able to go down easily, whatever it is. But look, I mean, if at his age, if he's never had esophagus problems before and he feels like this is just his first time, then he probably just didn't chew his fucking food and it probably got stuck in his throat. Because legit, that is not somebody with an allergic reaction that goes into shock. He felt his throat was tightening, but again, he didn't chew his fucking food enough, then his throat would feel like it's tightening. The esophagus would constrict. And again, we bring it all back to esophagus gate with Sutton and her freaking esophagus and all this other stuff. But he's so obnoxious. I'm Italian. Yes, in case nobody could see that freaking shirt on you that says Italian. But it reminds me of like back in the 90s when everybody was watching the mob movies, right? When like being in the mob was the cool thing. Everybody was watching The Sopranos. Everybody was watching Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, The Godfather. It was like the cool thing to be Italian, right? He's still stuck in that era. That is what he's stuck in. He is stuck in his Tony Soprano era. And he thinks like, I'm Italian. Like nobody gives a shit that you're Italian. Like you and your tracksuit, you guys need to go back to like the early 2000s. We're in like 2024. It's like you're a has-been. It has been 20 years since The Sopranos been on. Anyway, but this guy is legit sitting there. I'm Italian. Okay, I'm American. You know what? The next time the paramedics come, I'm just going to be like, I'm American. I don't need the paramedics. I'm American. No, it's okay. I don't need the paramedics. I'm choking on a bone because I didn't chew. My esophagus is constricted. Somebody call Sutton's ENT doctor. I'm American, so it's okay. I'm American. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like when I see people at Walmart with tactical gear and it's like, dude, come on. They're like chicken shit. They're candy asses. And it's like, you want to wear the uniform, you want to wear the gear, you want to talk big shit. But it's like, if you were legit like that, you would have just joined the service. Instead of talking about how badass you were, you would have just joined the service. And John Fuda reminds me of that. John Fuda reminds me of the type of person that will show up in camouflage. Dude, please, whatever. You can't even pass a PT test. Like, this guy got liposuction after being on for 1 season. He had his whole face redone. He had new teeth put in. He had liposuction. Like, dude, you had more work done than your wife did. Like, what the hell? What is up with everybody getting, like, freaking, I don't know, implants or dentures? Those teeth implants and dentures, they look fucking weird as shit. They change people's faces. Like the implants are too abnormal. Like the teeth are too white, and like just the teeth itself doesn't even, it's like, it's not normal. Like it doesn't look normal. It looks weird. It looks like a painted teeth. The episode was boring as hell. You actually did not see a lot of scenes with the ladies. You didn't even see a lot of scene with Melissa. Have you noticed that? They showed Gorga and his boys' night, and Melissa popped in like 1 or twice, and that was it. How embarrassing is it for her that they filmed a whole entire scene with her husband, and she basically made like a 2-second entrance appearance? And you know, Teresa, she had her scene with like Jim Leonard and whatever else. Jen Aiden had a scene with her and Bill, with Danielle and her kids, and you see a scene with Rachel and her kids, and then Margaret is meeting up with Jen, and Margaret legit lost her shit. Like, she looks like a crazy person. The way she lost her shit at that little luncheon that she had with Jen Fessler, it reminds me of, there's this movie that is really great. It was with Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Towards the end, when Baby Jane legit like loses her shit and starts spiraling out of control, and she just like, she stops pretending that she even cares about her sister, and she starts like just unraveling by doing like crazy ass shit. That reminds me of Margaret. Like the way she just kind of like lost her shit and started pulling out the phone and calling up everyone and saying all this other stuff. And then like, you know, that whole florist with like that whole wreath and whatever. She was trying to do something because producers were trying to do something. It is a heavily produced show. It is not a scripted show, but it is a heavily produced show because there is no way that these flower arrangements, there was no way that this floral wreath was going to come at the exact same moment that Teresa was with her group. Obviously, producers asked Margaret, which florist are you going to use? Can you give me the number of it? And somebody, a field producer, spoke to a florist, whoever the delivery person was, and say, okay, can you deliver it at this time? Now, the person assigned to Teresa, they're going to find out when Teresa is having their meeting because the camera crew needs to be there, the audio crew needs to be there. They find out that the meeting is like, okay, at this date, this time, and then that field producer that is assigned to Teresa gets in contact with the producer that is assigned to Margaret and says, okay, well, Teresa's having her meeting at this time and this date, and you coordinate with the florist so that the florist comes at this time and this date so that we could capture it on camera and all this other stuff, because that is how it is done. And although it is not a scripted show, that is a heavily produced show to get the storylines moving, to make it seem as theatrical and as dramatic as possible, because again, the florist would not show up when Teresa's having her meeting and whatever. The messy part is that they don't tell Teresa something like this. The field producer assigned to Teresa is going to get all the information, and it's going to be under the guise of when are you having this, so that we know when to be there to film, so that, you know, the camera crew and the audio guy and whatever is going to be there. So they get that information from Teresa. But now, however, they're trying to move along the scene. So they go and they get the information from Margaret about, you know, or they put it in Margaret's head, and she gives them a florist that she's going to use and whatever. And then it's coordinated between the field producers to show up at this date and time so that it's on camera and all this other stuff. It is a heavily produced show. So that's basically it. That's the freaking episode. And then next episode is season finale at Rail's Steakhouse, guys. What did you think? I mean, are we shocked? I'm more interested in the behind the scenes stuff and what actually happened. What do you guys think? I mean, who do you think is coming back? Who do you think is not coming back? Do you even care at this point? Do you think that we are getting a complete reboot? What do you think about Melissa Gorga's Watch What Happens Live episode last night? Guys, have you been watching the Summer Olympics? And guys, before I go, don't forget to hit the like, follow, subscribe, leave me a comment, and all that good jazz. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.